Welcome back to Andersen Acres. We're in the kitchen tonight, and in the kitchen we are going to make one of my favorite potatoes. We are going to use a package of new potatoes. You can use any potatoes you've got, but I'm using new potatoes, and we are going to make minted new potatoes. If you don't have new potatoes, go to your cupboard, and whatever potatoes you have is fine. You just cut them. It's not really that big a deal. Okay? It doesn't matter. So we are going to use a lot of mint, a lot of parsley, some garlic, and some oregano, and it'll be fun. So this recipe is designed for new potatoes, but it's not the end of the world if you, there we go. I have trouble tearing things, okay? It's not the end of the world. If you don't have new potatoes, you can just use whatever you've got. What size new potatoes? Well, you're going to want about 1.5 pounds. Okay, 1.5 pounds, which just happens to be the size of these little bags. So buy yourself a little bag. It doesn't really matter how big the new potatoes are, because frankly, potatoes are running away. But frankly, you could just cut them smaller, okay? So we are going to cut our potatoes, but you'll notice we have a couple of different sizes. So smaller potatoes, like these little guys, like these little tiny guys, okay, these little potatoes, we're just going to cut in half. No big deal. Also, you're going to need a bowl. Okay, you're going to need a bowl, which I didn't get, but I am going to get now. You're going to need a bowl. I have a bowl in the cupboard, I promise. There we go. So a standard size little guy can just get cut like that. If you have someone bigger like this, maybe you want to cut them into quarters. Okay, so you might want to cut them into quarters. And if you're using like standard potatoes, like a russet or something, then you can definitely cut it into cubes. So you kind of look at your potatoes. That's the oven. Kind of look at your potatoes and decide what size do you have to chop them into in order for them to be roughly uniform. Okay, so some of them you'll chop in half. Some of them it'll be more than in half. You don't need to watch me chop these, but essentially what we're going to do is cut these potatoes up. You're going to want about 1.5 pounds of potatoes. We'll be right back as soon as I've cut all the potatoes, because this is annoying to watch. All right, those potatoes are now chopped. Okay, we've sliced them up. Remember, if you're using larger potatoes, just keep chopping until they're about this size. It doesn't matter that much. Now we're going to throw some other ingredients on here. Okay? What we need is, first we need some garlic, and I have an unopened package of garlic powder. We're going to use garlic powder. I have to open it, and I'm really bad at opening things, so I'm just stabbing stuff with a knife, because that's what I do. One of these days I'm going to stab my hand. Anyway, we are going to take some garlic powder, and we're going to do about 2 teaspoons of garlic powder. Okay, just 2 teaspoons. We don't need a ton, but we need enough. We are going to do 1 teaspoon of dried oregano. Now, we need some mint, but for mint, we're going to do 1 teaspoon of dried mint. You can use fresh mint, in which case you're going to be using a tablespoon. But I'm using dried mint, so we are just doing a teaspoon. Okay? And then we are going to do what amounts to about 2 tablespoons of parsley. Okay? Or a little less if you don't love it. You don't have to love parsley. I happen to, and we're blurry for no good reason. Yeah, we're blurry for no good reason. Didn't notice. There we go. I don't know why it does that sometimes. I'm not good with my camera. There we go. And then we need a teaspoon of salt. The salt is necessary, or your potatoes are going to be flat. Okay, you don't want more than a teaspoon, not tablespoon, by the way. Teaspoon of salt. And you don't want more than that, because if you put more than that, you are going to end up with potatoes that are really salty, and that's not the point. The salt is to unify flavors. That was about 3 tablespoons of oil. That sounds like a lot, but it's for the whole package. Okay. You could throw Parmesan on here if you wanted to. The first time you make them, don't. Okay? Don't do that the first time you make them because you might not like it. Not everyone likes mint and Parmesan together. So make sure all your potatoes are broken up and that none of them are sticking together. And while you're doing this, preheat your oven to 425 degrees Fahrenheit. Okay? You're going to need that temperature. You're going to notice there's quite a bit of oil in the bottom. That's okay. We want that. We want them to have a light coating. And then we're going to take a pan and we're going to pour it all in there. All of the oil. I'm using a 9x13 roasting pan, cake pan. I like glass ones, but you might have a metal one. Spread them out so they are in a single layer. We don't want anyone on top of each other. And we are going to stick them in the oven at 425 degrees Fahrenheit for 20 minutes. And then we're going to stir them. And then we're going to do another 20 minutes. And then we're going to stir them. And then we're going to do another 20 minutes. And we're going to bake them for an hour. And that is so that they get crisp and so that they start absorbing that oil. Make sure your oven is preheated. Don't put it in a cold oven. If you put it in a cold oven, the potatoes will start like just soaking up the oil instead of getting crispy with the oil. So you don't want these to sit in oil very long. Put them in a hot oven, 425 degrees Fahrenheit. We're going to stick them in for about 20 minutes. Then we'll be right back. All right, these will not be done yet. They just came out of the oven after 20 minutes. We're going to give them a stir. And you're going to hear them sizzling as they bubble in that oil. Okay. And we're going to give them a stir, make sure they're again in a single layer, push them down, and we're going to return them to the oven for another 20 minutes. They will not be cooked after this first 20 minutes. They probably won't be cooked after the second 20 minutes. That's why we check, but we don't have to check now. They are not done now, I promise. 20 minutes in the oven is not enough for these guys to be soft and tender. So we're going to return them to the oven for 20 minutes, and then we'll be right back. All right, they've been in for another 20 minutes, and now they are technically done. Like if I push my fork into one of them, they are more than cooked. However, you have an option now. You can put them in the oven for a further 10 to 20 minutes to crisp them more. This is personal choice. Okay, so I'm just giving them another stir, and I am going to put them back in the oven. I'm going to do it for 10 minutes, but you can do it for up to 20. Okay, they are cooked at this point. They are cooked after the full 40 minutes, but we like them just a little crispier. So again, separate them, make them a single layer in the pan, and we're going to put them back in the oven. We'll be right back when they are actually finished. There we go. They have cooked for 50 minutes. We only put them in for an extra 10. You could put them in for an extra 10 again and cook them for a total of 60 minutes. But they look great to me. You can do these in larger batches. You do need additional pans. You don't want these layered thick. Now, let's grab a slotted spoon and a dish, serve up a little helping, and see what they look like. And there we are. Minted new potatoes. They are excellent. Serve them with some lemon chicken or some lamb, and they are absolutely fantastic. You can make larger batches. You can make smaller batches. This batch was made using 1.5 pounds of potatoes. That's about it for us here today at Andersen Acres. Drop a comment below if you enjoyed minted new potatoes. We'll see you tomorrow.